November 21st marks 6 years since a house fire killed 4 sisters in Flora, Indiana. The girls were between the ages of 5 and 11. They were trapped in the fire. A lengthy investigation eventually determined the fire was arson. No one has ever been arrested. 13 News has followed this investigation from the very beginning, and we've talked with family members who are upset at the lack of answers.
It's one of the worst things that ever happened in Carroll County. It might be the worst.
It's been 6 months since 4 little girls died in a house fire in Flora. Now Indiana State Police say it has identified persons of interest.
I believe that somebody knows who was in that house that morning on November the 21st. And I hope they have the courage to talk about that experience and why. Because we have lots of questions.
Kiana, Kiara, Cariel, and Connie all died in the rental home where they lived on East Columbia Street. Their converted apartment went up in flames. There were no batteries in the smoke detectors upstairs where the girls slept. Their mother, Galen Rose, says she awoke to thick, suffocating smoke. She ran outside screaming for help. 2 officers narrowly escaped with their lives trying to save the girls.
We're taking each one of those rooms and looking at those independently, taking a look at all possible causes.
At first, the Indiana State Fire Marshal's investigators thought wiring behind the refrigerator started the fire. Then in January, a stunning announcement made through a hastily sent press release on a Saturday afternoon.
The house fire that killed 4 young sisters was intentionally set.
Indiana Department of Homeland Security arson investigator Dennis Randall said there were accelerants found throughout the home. It was alarming news.
I'm angry. They took 4 lives from me.
But unlike the killings of 2 teens just a few miles away in Delphi, there was no press conference, no unified stance with state and federal investigators vowing to track down the culprit, and no notification of the arson announcement to the Carroll County prosecutor or key investigators.
I want publicity about this case because I want it to be solved.
Was ISP aware that that release was going out on Saturday?
We were not.
The fallout behind the scenes was immediate. Superintendent Carter says the release was premature because ATF had yet to get evidence back from the lab.
There has been conversation about what happens has got to be shared with the ISP and with the detectives assigned to this.
But 13 Investigates has learned that hasn't happened. An independent arson investigator working the case sent a scathing email to the Department of Homeland Security and Fire Marshal Jim Greason about the DHS investigation. A copy of the email also came to 13 Investigates. The Michigan investigator writes, the press release by the state fire marshal about the conclusions of their investigation are not correct and completely based on speculation and not evidence. We showed the letters to both the prosecutor and the superintendent.
I don't know about this, but I'll find out about this.
I've never seen this letter before.
Prosecutor Ives admits there's been little contact with the state fire marshal's office.
State Fire Marshal considers, I believe, part of its task to look into the criminal aspect of a case, but as far as I'm concerned, the lead investigative agency for this case is the Indiana State Police.
The state fire marshal refused to sit down to talk about the Flora case. All of this as state police ask for witnesses to come forward on behalf of 4 little girls.
We need people to be talking to people and people to be listening to other people and then reporting it appropriately.
My only concern about this case is that it's properly investigated.
A new investigator was recently assigned to take over the Flora fire investigation. Detective Greg Edwards, who was on the case for the first 6 months, transferred to another ISP position. Now, both ISP and DHS are still questioning witnesses and individuals who might have helpful information. Family members we spoke with say they are still very concerned about how this case is progressing and want to see a stronger presence when it comes to solving the case that claimed the lives of 4 little girls.
1 year fades to 2, but not the memory of 4 little girls.
We got 4 spaces at our Thanksgiving table that'll never be filled.
A single ribbon outside this burnt boarded up rental home in Flora, a reminder of where they lived and died in a fire investigators say was intentionally set. Family members say for far too long, Galen Rose, the mother of Kiana, Kiera, Cariel, and Kiani, has been the focus.
She lived for those girls, and no way in this world would she do anything to hurt them.
Now the mother herself, who was questioned about the fire, says her landlord's negligence is to blame for the death of her girls.
In a federal lawsuit filed in the Northern District of Indiana, Galen Rose and her attorney say Councilman Joshua Ayers, his business partner Troy Helderman, and their company Birch Tree Holdings violated Indiana law and failed to provide a safe and habitable property, was careless and negligent in their maintenance, and breached the statutory duty of installing, replacing, and repairing smoke detectors at each level.
The smoke detector was right by their door, right up the stairs, right there. It was one there. Nothing on it. There was one in the kitchen.
The lawsuit says as a result of the failure to equip the property with any functioning smoke detectors, Rose's 4 minor children died from smoke inhalation.
Those smoke detectors would have gotten them up. They would have took off, because I know them. They would have come flying down the stairs because it's a noise.
Rose also claims she reported malfunctioning electrical outlets in the kitchen and problems with a Whirlpool range more than 2 weeks before the fire. According to the lawsuit, Ayers and/or Helderman acted with gross negligence. The landlords reportedly attempted to repair the outlets and a leaking kitchen ceiling, but were unsuccessful. In addition, there's a product liability claim against Whirlpool, the manufacturer of a Sears Kenmore range taken from the home's kitchen. Rose and her attorney say the range was defective and dangerous, and the deaths of her girls would not have occurred without Whirlpool and/or Sears. Jacqueline Partlow says her nieces deserve answers.
We love our family, and we just want to know what happened to them.
I don't want my babies to get lost. I want my babies to get justice.
Thousands of miles away from Flora and the home where her 4 little girls died, Galen Rose is breaking a long silence.
Because I miss my girls a lot. It's just been a little hard for me, but I just be trying to stay strong. I feel like I've been left in the dark.
She's talking by phone about her girls and what her family sees as a disparity in effort to get answers about the murders of 2 Delphi girls and the fire in November 2016 that killed her 4 girls. Investigators say the fire was arson. If someone said it, who?
There were 4 babies that nobody is going after to find out what happened.
Leslie Anderson is visiting Indiana. She's Galen's aunt and lives in California, where Galen and her father also now reside.
Nobody cares. Not in Carroll County, not in the state of Indiana. I'm appalled that the state of Indiana has not done more.
Hard words from a family who claims state police investigators are less responsive to the plight of their girls than the murders of the Delphi girls. Anderson says she saw the Delphi case on national news just weeks ago after state police put out a new sketch.
This investigation is national.
It wasn't the first time. 10 months after the Delphi case, the state police superintendent was on national TV talking about Abby and Libby. The widespread attention brought in more than 26,000 tips. But what about Kiana, Kiera, Cariel, and Kiani? Galen's father says there are no updates, privately or publicly. The family says state police simply showed up on the 2-year anniversary of the fire.
It's a hard pill to swallow. You got 4 dead girls. You got 4 babies. How would the other family feel?
Citing the drastic sketch changes in the Delphi case, Galen says she worries about the fire investigation too.
Are they even looking in the right direction? That even questions. How can you mistake somebody for 2 years? I kind of question, are they doing their job right?
These 4 little African American girls are just a tragedy that happened. And if we just shut up, they'll shut up. And then it'll go away. And that'll be the end of that. We're not going to go away.
A message Galen echoes from thousands of miles away.
We still gonna fight the fight no matter what. I just want more answers. I want my babies in the spotlight. I want my babies out there. I want everybody to know we fighting to try to figure out what happened.
The family of Galen Rose is working on a meeting with Indiana State Police investigators. We have also reached out to see what, if any, additional steps will be taken to help prompt more tips in this case.
The windows and doors are boarded up, but otherwise the house on East Columbia Street sits largely untouched after the deadly fire in the early morning of November 21st, 2016. Kiana Davis, Kiera Phillips, Carrielle McDonald, and Kiani Welch, ages 5 to 11, died. A lengthy investigation eventually determined the fire was intentionally set. No one has ever been arrested.
I'm frustrated all the time. I'm disappointed. It's just taking too long to figure out what happened, how it happened.
The girl's mother left Flora and moved to California to be with family shortly after the fire. She felt like she had to get away from the place that took away all of her children.
There was no type of beef, no retaliation against me and my family. No one disliked us like that. We didn't have no beef. Everyone loved us just as well we loved them. So once again, I'm lost. To be honest, I feel like it was more racial.
They didn't deserve this.
Joyce Simpson helped organize a cookbook and other fundraisers for Flora's 4 Angels that have raised about $18,000. She drives by the house almost every day.
I wish they would just tear it down and go on. You know, don't forget the family.
State police have no updates on the case, but the investigation is still open with a reward.
Whoever is out there knowing, come out and say anything. Come say something. Those were my babies. Those were my children.
Stuffed animals and other items from the memorial in front of the house still sit in crates on the porch. 4 sisters not forgotten in Flora.
We lost some people that are very special to us. And I can't imagine how she feels, because she has no one, but she has us.
It's been 5 years since Kiana Davis, Kiera Phillips, Carrielle McDonald, and Kiani Welch were killed in a tragic house fire in Flora. Today, family and friends gathered here at Crown Hill Cemetery to remember the sisters and the memories they shared. Their mother, Galen Rose, moved out of state. She joined by FaceTime.
They were loving, they were caring, they were everything to us.
Their aunt, Jacqueline Partlow, says the family relies on their faith in God to keep them moving forward.
We're doing the best we can. We have to take it day by day like she does. We don't understand none of it. And for her to lose all of her children, it's tough.
We still have hope today.
An investigation determined the house fire was set intentionally. 5 years later and still no arrest. As another year passes with no answers, everyone here continues to say the same prayer.
Even though they left too soon, that justice will prevail, that answers will come, and that they will not die in vain. But out of this tragedy, we'll get triumph.
We just hope and pray that somebody will come forward and say something. Somebody knows.
Until that day comes, they're going to keep praying for justice.
Let us leave this place and never forget who they were in our lives. From this moment, even forevermore. It is in Jesus' name we pray this prayer.
Indiana State Police tell us they could provide no update on the case, but this investigation is still open with a $5,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. So if you have any information about this case, the arson hotline number is 1-800-382-4628.